Pastor Cruz, thank you for that. And thank you for coming to America. And thank you for the great example you set with your life. You've got to be a proud man tonight. I want you to know I respect your son very, very much. We need many, many, many more Americans like him. And I think, I appreciate you giving glory to God. I will tell you, great parents are a big part of our nation, and great parents make great Americans. And so I pay tribute to you there in that way. I think this is really great that we come together here. We've got a big decision in front of us. The most awesome thing is that we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. We all want the same thing. We may be in disagreement. We're not in disagreement of what plays to run. For the most part, we know what plays need to be run. We're just arguing about who should be quarterback. That's all we're arguing. And we have different opinions about that. This nation is really in the balance. Our entire nation is in the balance. The Supreme Court, that changes. Our nation changes forever. We lose our nation because we lose the Constitution. One more. There'll be two by the next president. The next president for sure is going to put at least two. All we need is one more ultra-liberal on the Supreme Court, and we've seen what the liberals will do. They believe that 5 justices, not 9, 5, that's all it takes is 5 justices, can change the entire Constitution by interpreting it differently than it was ever intended to be, at their own whim. All they have to say, it is so, and it becomes so. Just one more. We got to get this right. We absolutely have to get this right. By the way, I think Ted Cruz would make a great Supreme Court justice. I think he would. And as I've looked at this, there may be more than one right decision on this, but there aren't many right decisions on this. And I want your permission to talk really, really candidly. I noticed the 2 speakers before me were in some ways politically correct in that nothing was said about the other candidates. And I think that there's some good wisdom to that, because we have people here who disagree. And I just want to point out that we can disagree on something and see things differently and still unite in the end. But I want to have your permission to lay out for you what I see. Because the stakes are so big, we can't afford to get it wrong. And I just want to tell you, what I would like to have you do is just think deeply. I know we come here, we've got friends, we've got people who we said we were going to support before we came. Many come here tonight already with their mind made up. We can't afford to get this wrong. If we make the wrong decision, we're going to end up losing our nation. I think it's really great that Idaho is now in a position to make a difference. For the first time in a presidential election in my lifetime, at least, and I've lived in Idaho most of my life, we're in a place we can make a difference in the decision, and our election is just a few days away. And our message to America, can influence the rest of this country. I think if you're asking the question, who should we elect as president? Who should we vote for individually? I believe that we should ask these two questions. There are two questions. First is, who would make the best president? Who would make the best one? And the second question is, who can get elected? Because the first one doesn't do us any good unless we got the second one right. The most recent poll, national poll, Hillary Clinton's going to be the Democrat nominee. That's who we're pitting our person against. Hillary Clinton, 52, Donald Trump, 44. In my mind, there are many reasons to disqualify Donald Trump, but that's one of them. 52, 44. Hillary, 48, versus Ted Cruz, 49. That's really close. I think it gets tougher when they start beating up on Ted Cruz. Clinton, 47, Marco Rubio, 50. There's a reason for that. I'm here representing and asking for your vote for Marco Rubio. It's not something that I've just jumped into. It's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, analyzing from the get-go. A long time. Yeah, I was one of the first to come in and support and back Marco Rubio. But it wasn't without a lot of thought. And I'm going to perhaps violate the process that's been set up. And I'm going to talk to you really candidly why I think, for specifically not Donald Trump. Mitt Romney came out and did something that's really uncharacteristic for Mitt Romney. He said it really clearly, and I agree. Donald Trump is a con artist. He's made a living conning people. Oh yeah, deal maker, but bully in his deal making. I do not believe that that's the Republican way. Trump University, they scammed $35,000 per individual. For what? For what? And I know I'm making some people in this room really angry right now. And I apologize for that, but I'm going to speak candidly. If you don't think that happened, guys, it happened. He got $40 million. A lot of lives really damaged by that. But that's just going through the history. Pastor Cruz is right. Look at where they've been and what they've done. And Pastor Cruz didn't even bring up Donald Trump's name, but we all knew who he's talking about. Trump University. If you think that Donald Trump is not for special interests, then look again. Donald Trump has been governed by a special interest his entire life. Look at his towers, look at his airplanes, look at his helicopter, and you will know what special interest governs Donald Trump. As far as being a business builder, in my opinion, Donald Trump breaks his promises over and over and over. And that's why I think it's really, really dangerous where America is going today, to fall in line and vote for him because of some soundbite. But if you look at what he's done, many, including me, fear that he's just going to return to his liberal ways as soon as he gets the nomination. And even worse, when he wins the nomination and becomes president, if that were to happen. We cannot count on a conservative Supreme Court justice. We cannot. He's been all over the board. He's supported everything. But yes, he's been for gun control in the past, for abortion, in his most liberal sense in the past. And now that's changed because he's running. And again, I know I'm making a lot of people really angry. But the facts should not anger us. They shouldn't. The truth will make us free. So America is backing Donald Trump, or at least not really America, some portion of the Republican Party, because they're angry. I'm angry too. I'm scared too. I'm tired of what's going on in Washington. But anger is never a good way to make decisions. It never comes out with a good ending. And I will tell you, extreme arrogance coupled with extreme power is a really dangerous mixture. It's really dangerous. And we cannot afford that. Now, as far as a business person and breaking promises, when you file bankruptcy one time, and I don't know very many people who filed bankruptcy one time. And I'm sure there's people in this room who filed bankruptcy. And I'm sure there's a time when that makes a lot of sense. But in truth, let's face it, when you file bankruptcy, you're breaking promises. Because you made commitments that I will pay you. If you lend me money, I will pay you back. In fact, if I don't pay you back, you can have this and this and this for collateral. That's what you promise. It doesn't say, unless I hit hard times, or unless I change my mind, unless things don't work out. It says, I will pay you. I've known many great, awesome men who could have filed bankruptcy, had good reason to in their youth, and didn't because they promised to pay back and spent their entire life working to pay back the debt that they owed because they made a promise. And here we have a man who is saying, I'm a billionaire. I don't care how many employees you got. I don't care how many people you have to lay off. I don't care how many lives I ruin. I'm not going to pay you back. Not once. 4 times he does that, and he's a billionaire, and he files bankruptcy. Talk to the people who lost their jobs. Talk to the businesses that went out of business because they couldn't pay their employees. And we're going to ask him to run our country. You say, well, he's such a great businessman. Well, we could all win in business. If we use his rules, we could go to Vegas with his rules. So he bets big. He bets really, really big. Big amounts of money. Millions and hundreds of millions of dollars is the wager. And if he wins, he takes his winnings. And if he loses, he says, I don't pay. I will tell you, when you file bankruptcy, it's an indication of one of 3 things. It's either you're a really poor visionary, or you're a bad manager, or your business plan didn't work. One of those 3 things. And he's documented it pretty well. And we're even considering making him the President of the United States. It's because we're not looking. It's because the people, honestly, the people who are supporting him don't look very deeply. They don't look at the record. The advice that Pastor Cruz gave us is really good. Look at the record. To have somebody like Mitt Romney come out and do what he did just a week ago and say this would be a disaster for America. It would be. And Mitt Romney, if you've watched, Mitt Romney's always been really careful with what he said. He's not said anything of any extreme, and I've never seen it. For him to do that, and he does know what he's talking about, and I think we ought to listen. And he gave us the solution. He gave us a solution. Whoever has the best chance of winning, they got to stop Donald Trump first, because it will be a disaster if he becomes our nominee. Now, I don't think that Donald will ever become president because of what the polls that we're seeing. Is America will, when it gets closer, America will look at his record, and they won't like what they see from many, many perspectives. In regards to who should be the best president, I believe we need a uniter. I believe we need somebody who can bring us together, and that's why I went with Marco Rubio. I believe he's the brightest. There are a lot of bright guys. There are really, really bright guys that are running for election right now on the Republican Party. We've got some really bright people. He is, in my opinion, the most articulate. He can explain things in a sound bite. Not like a choppy little soundbite. I mean, lay it all out for you. Not in a short little, like, pithy thing that sounds really great. But he will tell you the solution because he understands the problem. He's been there. He's a student of these issues. He understands the problems that confront our nation, in my opinion, better than any of them. And he is able to lay out why he stands, where he stands, in a way that's really inviting. Really inviting. And he can convince others on the other side to join up. And I think that's an extreme talent that we need as a president and as a country. There probably are not, well, there's not enough sheer Republicans to elect a president. We need some independents, and we need a few crossovers from the Democrats. And you don't have to cater to their beliefs. You don't have to give them what they want to win them over. And Marco's been really, really good at saying, I stand here. Yes, it's the Constitution, but here's why it's still a good idea. It's not just because it's the Constitution, it's the Constitution, it's the Constitution. Because that it is. And that's an argument that wins with us, but it's not an argument that wins with the American people. They want to know, why does it still work for us? And he is so good at laying out why. Our founding fathers were so wise in what they wrote and how they wrote it and why it still works for us today, why it's still the solution today. In order to get them to buy into being a conservative like we all are, we need to be able to lay out to them, and I mean everyone in this country, why conservatism is the best way. Now, I love Ted Cruz. I love his position. For the most part, I like where he stands. My concern is how he stands there. And my concern is, in all due respect, and I honor him, but my concern is, he's been in the Senate for 4 years. And he has courage. There's no doubt about that. It's tremendous courage. But he stands there in a way that alienates even those who agree with him. And I think that we need to pay attention to the fact that he hasn't got a single Senate endorsement. And does that mean, hey, they're all cowards? Every one of them is a coward? They're not. Does that mean every one of them is wrong and they're just catering to the special interests? It doesn't. It doesn't mean just that. You can stand for the right principles without alienating, and you can be biblical without alienating the other side. We don't have to pound our theories, our principles into people, because they will resist that. You have to show them, tell them, explain to them why these principles are so great and why they work so well. And Marco Rubio has that hands down. And when it comes to a general election against Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, he will have such an extreme advantage of being able to lay things out where this whole nation gets behind him. Now, Marco Rubio is at extreme disadvantage here in this room tonight because I'm representing his message. He's going to be here tomorrow night. He's going to be, what time is it? Damon, what time is it? 5:30 tomorrow night. He's coming here. And if you want to, he's so much, just come listen to him. And yes, look at his record. And they hit him up, he's not conservative enough. He's just as conservative. Just as conservative. Stands in the same place. The idea of, path to citizenship and, boy, amnesty and all that stuff. I will tell you, 90% of this nation, including me, believe that just because somebody was born in Mexico and the border is open and he wants a better life for his kids and he comes across the border, he's been invited. Actually, he's been invited by the current administration to come. And then because he came, we're going to say, and therefore you can never become a citizen of this country. Not ever. Not ever. You are totally disqualified. No matter how great of American you would make, We're going to disqualify you because you wanted a better life for your family, and that's what this whole idea of amnesty is all about. That we allow them at some point, many years in the future, to apply for citizenship. And I'll tell you, 90% of the American people, including me, I know some of these people, they would make great Americans, and they'd make great conservatives. They're all conservative, except for the fact that the Democrats are the only ones who are inviting them to come to our country and become citizens. I think there's a great, yes, I don't think the door should be closed on immigrants. And I don't think we should misinterpret what that whole idea is all about. And I think Marco Rubio stands exactly where 99% of this room would stand, does stand, if they understand the issue. Having said all of that, I do think that extreme positions like abolishing the Department of Energy would be really, really, really bad for our country. 2/3 of the budget of the Department of Energy is nuclear defense. 2/3. And yes, I don't think that we should vote against somebody just because our community would be damaged. It would be horribly damaged. But I think that the Department of Energy probably needs to be revamped, but abolished, I don't think so. When we say that, hey, we're going to abolish the IRS, I think the American public, that's going to be a hard sell. And I think we'd love to have, I don't think anybody's been attacked by the IRS more than I have in this room. But that doesn't mean that I'm against all taxes. And it doesn't, and I know that that's not the argument. But there needs to be collection of taxes. And I just do not believe, I know it sounds so great because by golly we get rid of those guys, but I think it's oversimplified. And I think we need people who can sort those things out, keep our nation strong. Come out tomorrow night and listen to Marco Rubio. It's not for me to lay out his principles and his position. I'm just saying I believe he'd make an absolute awesome president. And I think if we had him, number one, we can elect him. And the American people will follow behind him, not because he's done deals with the other side, not because he's rationed off any part. He stands firmly where he stands. He's just so good at inviting others to come and join him on his side of the line, rather than him crossing over to their side. And I think that's what we need as a President of the United States. Come out and listen to him tomorrow night. Thank you for indulging me tonight. Thank you.